Good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's video. This is going to be an interesting one, talking about the Tesla Q4. I'm sorry, Q4 earnings, and their full fiscal year, 2021 results, as well as the resulting kind of tumultuous swings in the stock price. On the bad side, really, on the downside after the result, and kind of trying to put it into perspective a little bit, and trying to explain a little bit of what's going on, at least the way I see it. So as most folks are aware, Tesla had an amazing Q4, an amazing year, fiscal year 21, as mentioned on the call, and as you can see from their financial statements. This is a public information. Tesla has now become positive. Their retained earnings are now positive since the inception of the company, meaning and this is critical for a business, any business, as they originally ramp up, the same as Amazon, the same as Apple, the same as all the companies. When you originally start your operations, you're going to have losses. Most companies do, especially high technology companies that need to prove their product and sell high volumes. They're going to have significant losses for the beginning, for the first, depending on what product it is, for the first, 5, 10, 20 years sometimes. They're going to have losses every year as they ramp up, and then they're going to start having gains. So if in the first 10 years you have $1 million loss every year, then you had, a $10 million loss in retained earnings. That's cumulative. Cumulative earnings is $10 million since the inception of the company. And then if you start having profits, you start chipping away at that and slowly getting back to a zero balance. Now Tesla is now positive, so Tesla has had more earnings than losses since the inception of the company, which is tremendous. Congratulations to them. As Elon said on the call, they're finally a real company. So that makes a lot of sense, and yeah, congratulations to them. Another thing that's important is the delivery numbers. A lot of people have talked about this. They surprised significantly on the delivery numbers. They beat the estimates that the market had for them on the top line and bottom line. So the analysts come up with estimates on what they think their results will be for the quarter, and Tesla has beat them, right? And their future looks incredibly great, with just the current two factories that they have currently fully operational. Actually, not fully, as we've learned on the call. They have the factory in California and the factory in China. Those two factories currently, for the fiscal 21 producer, for the last fiscal year, they produced around 940,000 cars. Just shy of 1 million, and they're suggesting that for the full fiscal year 2022, they're going to increase that by at least 50%, just with those two factories. So they're going to be around 1.4 million. Tremendous increase, right? So they have potential to ramp up those two existing factories quite significantly, which is incredible. But then what's also important is that they have the Texas factory and the Germany factory. They are basically complete. They're complete factories, ready to go. They just need kind of final approvals as it comes to Germany, and basically they just need to ramp up as it comes to Texas from the latest that I've heard. But again, don't quote me on that. There's always a moving target, and they were not very explicit on the call as to that, and that's one of the reasons the stock analysts didn't take that well, because they didn't they didn't come up with the perfect reasons as to why those two factories are not yet operational, and they didn't give a timeline on when they will become operational. Okay, but I'm saying, keeping things into perspective, they're going to be over 50% growth without those factories. So even if those factories are not operational for the year, they're going to have 50% growth. I mean, that's tremendous. Yet the stock drops. Their demand right now is for the demand even for the future, for not just 2022, but in the future is they're not going to have an issue with demand. they're just constrained, as they mentioned on the call, they're constrained on chips, and then they will be constrained on batteries. That's what they say. They're currently not constrained on batteries, which it was a surprise to me, a huge surprise. But they will be constrained on batteries once they fix the constraint on the chips. So once the chip production starts happening around the world, hopefully, which is not a given, but hopefully that gets resolved, then they will be able to ramp up production even further, but then they will get into the constraint of batteries. There's just not enough batteries that they produce themselves, or they recently started producing batteries, or that their third-party suppliers like Panasonic that produce for them, right? So LG, I'm sorry. And so yeah, so it's a very interesting thing. They're selling, they have plenty of demand, as much as they can actually do it, or anybody could do it, because if there's no supply for them, there's really no supply for anybody else in terms of batteries. So given all those things, there's really no reason why this would be taken by the markets as a bad thing. It's all positive. You just have to fix the supply constraints, and then you're going to have a boom for the foreseeable future, for the next 10 years, really for the next 20 years in electric vehicles, right? So that being said, the stock, based on that, the stock should have, increased substantially, just if everything was normal, right? But then you take other factors into consideration, and there could be, things that I'm not privy to. I'm not a day trader, and not an investor on that level. There are institutional investors that see these things a lot better, and they're able to tell the fluctuations on a day-to-day basis. So there could be, some foul play happening. You don't really know. There's many factors that happen. So any retail investors, any small-time investors, like myself, really have to be careful in kind of what you're doing short term, because you have big players out there that really know the game, and they manipulate the market. For lack of better words, that's actually what's happening. I can go into details as to certain examples of that, and most people wouldn't believe it. They think it's a free market, and it's it's very not free. Free to certain respects, but there's a lot of manipulation. And specifically what I'm talking about here is large orders. How are you going to buy $1 billion worth of Tesla? You can't just go on E-Trade and buy that, or sell that. It has to be done through other channels, and that's where the market manipulations can happen, significant manipulation. So outside of those things that I'm not privy to, but they can exist. I'm looking at why the price would decrease following the call, and the only reason is that the analysts, the folks that write articles, and the public at large, this is a vast majority of people, do not understand Elon. They do not understand the way he thinks. They do not understand I would say he's genius. But he also maybe doesn't understand people as well in that respect, and maybe he doesn't want to, right? He kind of has no patience for, lack of better words, not forward-thinking, or a little bit of stupidity in kind of certain respects. And one of the analysts on the calls was quite alluding to that, to kind of what Elon was talking about. So he answered this question. He was talking about the roadmap for the $25,000 Tesla. When is that coming? When is the Cybertruck coming? Because that's what investors want to see. They're like, oh, when is the next Apple product coming? Based on that, I'm gonna put in my model. We're gonna create a frenzy here, and the stock price can go up or whatever. That's how I'm gonna have this. And Elon brought up something that's very important for a business that most businesses don't really think about. Is really, let's not just create a frenzy of, new products necessarily coming out there that we currently have, their mission is to drive sustainable energy adoption across the world. And they're basically saying for the next year, and probably even further, I'm assuming, just their current models, the current four models that they have, are enough to take all their capacity, to basically take all the capacity that they have and drive that growth further. So they really don't need to introduce, any new models that they introduce. It's going to be a distraction to them, especially considering, everything else going on with the supply chain issues. Like, for example, a lot of their resources, they have to write code, and they have to figure out the way to integrate chips, into their existing products, so they can still deliver, things that other car manufacturers are not doing. So, because of that, it's very interesting that the analysts and the markets at large do not understand that, right? It's really, really interesting, and I'm actually frankly disappointed in that. What else? That was one. The other one was full self-driving. This is something we really have to talk about, right? I'm sorry about the noise in the background. There's a helicopter flying around here. Full self-driving. Full self-driving is a thing that's not understood by the markets, and no analyst is currently, or very few if any, are giving actually any significant thought about. They don't believe Tesla can do it, and I basically don't blame them, because it's never been done in the history of humanity. Currently our technology is just programming. It's nothing more than just a set of instructions that you give. It's nothing extraordinary, to be honest. All our current technology is it's just a set of instructions, and we've had sort of robots, even wooden robots, going back centuries, really, without specific code, specific programming language, but with a sort of rudimentary language. It's just literally a set of instructions. This happens, then do that. If-then statements. And what they're trying to do is, neural nets, which is learning, really learning outside of the scope of a programmer telling the car, or telling that software or that specific machine what to actually do. So because of that, it's very difficult for people to understand that it can be done. Even for me, frankly, I'm not 100% sure, because I'm not working in that field. I have some experience in computer programming, going back 20 years. I haven't done it really in 20 years. And I've done it, work in Turbo Pascal and C++. But again, I haven't touched it in literally 20 years, so I basically don't remember anything except just the kind of the overall ideas. But still, it's so I'm not sure it can be done. But if anybody could do it, I believe it's Elon and his team. I think he has a great team that they can really do miracles, and they've proven it so far. And I hope they can tackle one of the hardest problem that's ever been in computing software. This is the hardest problem that, if they can fix it, by far, nothing else even comes close. Even I would say even the invention of the computer, all of that is a natural progression of things. It was nothing incredible. This is a step above everything else. So Elon was trying to say that in less words than that. He was trying to say that on the call. And of course, the analysts do not understand this. They do not understand what this means. They do not understand the difficulty of it, and they don't understand that if you actually do this, which he's saying they will do, it will change the world more than the internet, more than any other technology we've developed so far. The world will be just different. You will open up the world to general artificial intelligence. That such thing does not exist. Actually, artificial intelligence does not exist currently. there's no such thing as actually intelligence in the in the software robotics world. Everything is just a programming, um, a programming language. There's no such thing as actually operational neural nets and stuff like this. I mean, there might be. I'm not familiar with, but there's nothing really that's being put in practice to any degree of, um, of significance. And so, if this is actually going to be done, then yeah, then Tesla will dominate not just in the robo taxis. So all their cars will automatically just come to life, be able to deliver you wherever you want, be able to deliver anybody you want. You can make money off your car. How many people will choose to rent their cars out to just make money, like an Uber, but you don't have to drive it? It's just going to make money for you, And they've paid, $12,000 for those, whatever the current price of full self driving is, $12,000. I mean, how much is that worth to somebody? Somebody that wants to make that money. How many hours a day could you drive in New York City, in all the cities, or even outside of it, and just let the car drive itself? Yeah, I think it's going to be just incredibly revolutionary. It's going to replace all bus systems, all metros, a lot of the shorter flights, even the longer flights. Even if a flight takes an hour, maybe 2 hours. You could sit in a car, and maybe not a Tesla. For me personally, I would love a much bigger car with actually a reclinable bed. But those things will be possible. And once those get done, you can go from New York to other places, and yeah, those would be things that will be possible and will be able to be done, very easily. So that's one thing I believe that people do not understand, and Elon is saying once that's done, it doesn't matter what other models of cars we're introducing. Guys, you're not understanding. That's what I'm saying. You're not understanding. It doesn't matter. $25,000 car, $50,000 car, doesn't freaking matter. It's gonna be a revolution. And Tesla's, your investors, or your analysts, you're looking at valuation. And he's like, I don't even know how to value this. And when investors hear that, they just want to hear, oh, I'm gonna introduce Cybertruck and it's gonna produce $250,000 a year. I'm gonna introduce it next year, so I can build it into my model, so I can put a price target for somebody. And Elon doesn't want to play that game. He just doesn't, because they're playing on a different level. They're playing on a different scale. He didn't want to bother with that. Like, if you can create something truly extraordinary, why do you want to bother with this minutia? So, that's one thing that the markets don't really understand Elon. And he's operating. He's also, on another, he actually really dislikes these guys. I guarantee you, he does not consider them brilliant. He does not consider them that they do something useful, and they probably don't. And most people do not, that invest in the stock market and spend a ton of time in the stock market. Like, he doesn't think, that's a worthy endeavor. He thinks manufacturing is a worthy endeavor, actually creating something, and I think he's right. I really do. And he's of the opinion that too many people are involved in the financial system. How many people go into the financial system? Quite a lot, and brilliant people. And those people are taken away from engineering jobs, or from different types of labor that could really help society, but we're just pushing them into the financial sector, or they're going themselves, but we've created a system around it, and basically just to manipulate money. Like, for example, today Tesla dropped. Now there's opportunity to buy. People make millions and millions of dollars, billions literally every day. They make and they lose. Other folks lose, just by the swings in the market. This is something that we as a society need to look at. So, Elon talks in in very general terms, and very esoteric, and very high level, and people do not understand and do not appreciate him for that. So, most people, again, there's a lot of people that, by number, not as a percentage, There's a lot of people that do understand, and that's why we like him. We like him, and because he speaks a language that needs to be spoken. And so hopefully this makes some sense. So yeah, the decrease in the stock price really makes no sense. It's um, it's a little bit nonsensical in that respect, but I think it will be temporary. Well, temporary I want to say, but not really short term, because this will continue. This will continue for the long term. This call really made me think a couple of things. That Elon shouldn't be on these calls if he wants the stock price to be up, which is a whole different thing. I think Elon actually doesn't care about the stock price in the short term. He cares about the stock price in 2030. That's his goal, or more. He's like, hey, at that point you will be high no matter what. Everything will be settled. Full self-driving will be done. We would be capturing 20% of the car market, and probably that's by volume, but by actual transportation they'll be even higher. So I don't think he really cares about stock price in the long term. He actually might want it to be lower for various other reasons. What else I was gonna say? Yeah, so he talks about introducing a new product, Optimus. That's again something that the investors do not want to talk about. They do not believe it can be done. Robot walking around doing work. That's science fiction, and it's not reality for most people. So we'll see how long it'll take him to do that, if he can get it done. Again, everything is you have to quantify everything. But if anybody can do it, then I believe it's him and his team. So yeah, there's no what other company can you invest in and say, hey, they'll make full self-driving, and they'll make an artificial general robot that can help in most work scenarios where labor will be almost non-existent between the two, between artificial general intelligence and the robot. We'll have plenty of labor. So that's just profoundly changed the what company can you say you can invest money in. So I mean, yeah, I would suggest that people invest. Right now it's at a huge discount, but we have to really look at it in a 10-year time frame, because people will not understand it. For the stock market to go up, for the price to continue to go up, and a lot of people are frustrated, including myself. Two things have to happen. People need to understand the full self-driving and the robot, and people need to understand Elon, which is not going to happen. So yeah, it's not going to happen in the short term. That's kind of a it's becoming very clear that it's just not going to happen short term. Maybe the price will go to 2,000 next year, 2023. I probably doubt it, just based on everything going on right now. And if we want the price to increase, if you wanted the price to increase right now, you would say, I would do two things. I would not let Elon come on the calls anymore, if that's what we want. Again, he probably doesn't want that, because he's seeing how people react to him. People do not react good to Elon, no matter what. The general consensus is the vast majority of people, and I talk to a lot of smart people, they just don't like him. They don't like his attitude. So the vast majority of people, I think, don't like him. So he shouldn't be on calls. He should delegate, somebody else, and that's how the stock price will go up, and then they pander to a little bit to the analysts and give them data that they want. But again, I don't think Tesla will do that. I don't think they have to do that, and I think they want to keep the stock price a little bit lower, because they don't want to pay stock comp, for example. Elon doesn't want to pay stock comp for. There's already people on the factory floor that are millionaires from Tesla stock. If it continues to, if it explodes to $2,000, he'll make millionaires. His employees will be multi-millionaires, significantly multi-millionaires, who would want to work to push full self-driving, and the robot and everything else, Optimus. it becomes a question of how motivated are people. So I actually think he doesn't want the stock price up, and this is something we need to we need to consider. But yeah, for the short term, unfortunately, I personally would love for the short term for the price to increase as well. Because it gives my portfolio options. Like for example, I want to do other things with money, not just keep it in Tesla. I want to take out some money, part of it invest in, buy some land, start some different businesses, manufacture something actually. So I do want to create, certain things, but I cannot at this price level because the opportunity is just too great. There's nothing I can do that will even come close to meeting the returns that I'm expecting from Tesla for a long term. Plus, I'm in lost positions on a lot of this, as I bought all the way up to like 10.4, about 1100. So I'm in significant loss positions for these past couple of months. So yeah, definitely a little bit frustrating, but again, I'm not concerned of the long term. Definitely concerned with the short and medium term. So hopefully this helps, and yeah, hopefully you guys like this video. Thank you. Have a good night.